Alex. I'm your host, Ron DeSantis. Today I have got someone who usually is on the other end of the camera and he is looking at other people and their aquascapes and filming them and talking about other people. And I really wanted to get a chance to know Alex a little better. So we have got Alex from Tank Tested On. Alex, thank you very much for joining us today.
Of course. I'm happy to be here.
So Terry Lindsay's in the chat and he's saying, let's get this party started. So Alex, let's get this party started. Let's talk right away. How's Aquashella?
Aquashella was great. You saw my Instagram post that it took me a long time to get there. It took me 26 hours instead of 2. But once I was there, it was a lot of fun. I got to see a lot of people. I got to see a lot of really cool booths, film some contests. So over time, that'll be slowly coming out. I just posted really fast a video between Dustin and Joey, but going forward, there'll be a little bit more artistically shot contest that you'll see coming up.
Well, if you folks are over on my channel right now, so you obviously know my channel. In my community tab right now, I have shared that video that Alex is talking about with Dustin and Joey. It's on there in case you can't find it. Click on that right there. So what's again? Oh, we have an echo again. That's not good. There's an echo from me, or is there an echo from Alex? We'll just get that answered before.
Yeah, just the lots of echo.
Because once again, I do not hear an echo. But I've got an...
I'm echoing.
You're echoing? Alex is echoing. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to try putting on different headphones. We'll see whether or not that helps.
Sound good. Sorry about the audio delay, folks. This is my second attempt at StreamYard.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
Okay, so...
Okay. Am I still echoing?
I'm going to try headphones as well. Now let's see if we're still echoey.
If the issue is on your end, I'm going to switch headphones again.
Okay, I think that maybe if I use headphones, then you'll be okay. So what do we got now, folks? Do we have some echo, or are we doing okay? Still echo.
I have no idea what you were saying to me just now. I'm sure it was great.
Okay, I was just saying, how's the echo? Okay, I have got my earbuds in here. So let's try something else here.
In the meantime, for everyone, I hope you're just hearing one version of my voice and not 1,000. No echo. All good. Cool.
There we go. I think maybe we fixed it. Alex is good. Perfect. Okay. Everything is fixed. Let's carry on. Sorry about that, folks. Thanks for bearing with us. So, Alex, you have done a video where you have asked 12 YouTubers questions, and that question was, what was the first fish you've had? Well, Alex, you started keeping fish 25 years ago, so what was the first fish you kept?
Yeah, I guess the first fish I had, I wish I knew exactly what the first fish I had was, because I was 5. But it was a guppy of some sort. I imagine it was a live bearer of some sort. I know that because I remember the babies. Oh no, it's not fixed.
Oh, okay. Your mic gain needs to come up a bit. My mic needs to come up a bit. Okay. Okay, I'll turn my headphones up. Okay, hopefully we're good. Hopefully we're good here. Sorry about all the folks. So I'm a bit quiet, but hopefully I'll just speak louder and then everyone can hear me. So what steered you into the hobby, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, so I had my little 2-gallon guppy tank for a long time. And then I started getting a few more fish tanks. But really what spearheaded me going forward was my half-brother got out of the fish hobby. I think he had one 30-gallon fish tank with some cichlids in it.
Oh, okay.
And after he kind of got bored with the cichlids, he handed over the 30-gallon tank to me, and I tried to keep them best I can. Hindsight 2020, there weren't enough fish in that tank, and the tank probably needed to be a little bit bigger. But I was, 8 or 9 or something like that. And then over the course of the next decade or so, I ended up with as many fish tanks as my folks would allow me to have. I had my one and only saltwater fish tank, which I don't plan on ever doing salt again. I had discus fish, I had cichlids. I didn't get into planted tanks yet, but I had pretty much a huge variety of fish through, I guess, the end of high school. And then I took a break for college. And once I got a full-time job that I could pay for fish myself and pay rent on my apartment, I immediately got a fish tank with like a Christmas bonus. I think my bosses gave me like $200 gift card as like a Christmas thank you. And I immediately ran out and bought like a Petco 75-gallon tank with it.
That's a nice tank.
Yeah.
Good size. You started doing planted aquariums in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Who are some of the people that have inspired you to do that?
That's a good question.
Or look up to?
Yeah. I want to say the green machine probably is the thing that got me into the planted aquarium world. Yeah, I mean, I love the green machine. Yeah. And I feel like James Findley that was around the time that he was most active. I might be wrong on the dates on that, but I feel like seeing the videos of his beautiful, beautiful aquascapes is what really got me into the whole planted tank scene. And my first planted tank was terrible. It was awful. I mean, I kept many of the plants alive, but basically I ordered like a collection of plants, a variety pack of plants. And though they're not really supposed to all live in the same environment, and they certainly need very different conditions, and I didn't know what I was doing. But I was able to keep some swords alive. I feel like I was probably able to keep a couple of crypts alive. And my aquascape was, I went to Home Depot and I bought a whole bunch of marble and granite tiling and took a hammer to it and just broke it up and just has like jagged marble and granite in my fish tank. It was a thing. It wasn't pretty.
We've got a question here from Mile High Plecos. What type of plecos do you keep?
I have one pleco. I have a female. Oh no, bear with me.
Bristlenose?
Bristlenose, yes. I have a female bristlenose, which means it doesn't have bristles, which I'm pretty into because the bristles wig me out a little bit.
They definitely weird some people out. Yeah. What was it like to film George Farmer's demo?
Yeah, so George Farmer is a lovely guy. I really enjoy every time I get to hang out with him. I think I've seen him in person 3 or 4 times, and I'll see him again, I think, in 2 weeks at Aquatic Experience. He's just a really, really lovely guy, and he's very, very knowledgeable. So getting to film his demo, I think that might have been the first time that we had met in person. And he basically was like, I'm doing this demo. Would you like to come over and just film it for me? And we probably should have worked out like terms of, am I filming it for your channel? Am I filming it for my channel? I don't know the answer to that. But I sat down, I filmed the whole thing, cut it, put it together. And then later we uploaded it onto his channel. And it was just a really positive experience. I'm hoping that there are a couple more instances where we can do that. Maybe we'll do that again at this Aquatic Experience. And I'll have a little bit more prep time and set up a couple more cameras, maybe set up a GoPro on the tank itself so that we can see everything going on.
Awesome. Terry Lindsay's got a 2-part question here. Are you a fan of injected CO2? And what kind of fertilizers
do you use?
Sure. So I will use CO2 on occasion, but for the most part, I try to keep my tanks low tech. That said, I am in the process of setting up another tank that I want to work properly and not have any errors with it, because I want to do a recurring series with it, and I don't want to have episode 4 be just algae. So for that tank, I will use CO2. Generally, what I do with CO2 is I use CO2 for about the first month. That allows the plants to get established. It allows them to have enough carbon that they can root properly. And then I stop injecting CO2, probably mainly because I'm lazy. Not having CO2 forces the plants to grow a little bit slower, means I have a shorter light cycle, but it means that I can do less maintenance on my tanks. And that's something that makes me really happy. That said, it does limit the plants that I use for low tech setups. I don't grow a lot of stems. I mainly do really low tech carpets of Monte Carlo or dwarf hairgrass, or Java fern, or a couple of other plants that are pretty hardy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I've just noticed
over in the chat there that Jesse HC Aqua is buying 6 Starlight Plecos next month. That's awesome. Hopefully you're buying them from Mile High Plecos. That's where I got mine from. They're awesome.
Cool.
So I got a quick. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I also have to answer the first question because it was asked of me.
Yeah.
So I try to do tanks that have as minimal input as possible. I try to grow things as slowly as I can grow them without them losing a fight to algae. But I will use like the Tropica fertilizer. I'll just do a couple of squirts of that. I find that to be really lovely. Sometimes I'll put something in the substrate, but for the most part, I don't do a whole lot of that. That's just my particular style, and it's not something I necessarily recommend. It's just I've found I know enough about how to keep plants that I can keep them pretty effectively in stasis, which is kind of the opposite of what most people want to do with plants. But I like keeping them as static as I can get them without them starting to look bad.
Have you
used Easy Green before?
I've not.
I got a question here from Kendall. That's Otter Creek Aquatics. What's Alex's favorite plant?
Yeah. So my favorite plant, I really like guapa grass. Bear with me. Hold on. Sorry, I don't know why I felt like you really needed to see me show you some guapa grass, but guapa grass, it's just a hair grass. It grows to be about 1 foot long. Let me just pull off one leaf. It's a nice, like, relatively thin grass. It grows pretty easily, and it grows in low light, and it grows in no CO2. And it was collected by a local member of my aquatic plant club. And we're still in the process of IDing the species. That's why I call it guapa grass, because it was found by the Guapa Club. The other name in the hobby, or that we try to have in the hobby, is Murphy grass, because that was the name of the guy that discovered it.
There's another question here that
chat, which I see, but I'm going to jump into another one of mine because I really want to
get
into this part of the interview. So you're a documentary producer, editor, and shooter based in Washington, D.C. Did you go to school for that? And if not, how did you get into it?
Yeah, I did go to school for documentary film and environmental preservation. But I don't know. If someone were to follow in my footsteps, I would say maybe don't go to film school, or don't major in film. Major in something else. Major in something that's related to the type of film that you want to do, because you learn more in the first month on the job than you possibly could at film school. It's just a totally different beast. That said, it built some connections for me, so that was helpful. I don't regret going to school, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it.
how did you get it started with National Geographic?
I snuck in the door, essentially. This is where school comes in. I ended up walking the dog of someone that went to my college. Basically, I cold called everyone from my college, and someone worked at Nat Geo. I was like happy to drive an hour and a half to their house to walk their dog for like 6 months. Their show was over budget, and they asked me if I could do the graphics for it. I didn't know how to, but I taught myself. I did the graphics for that show. They liked it. They hired me to do another show's graphics, and then they hired me full time, and kind of snuck my way in that way into becoming a producer there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what have you worked on at National Geographic?
So I was a development producer there for a long time, which basically means I developed the television shows that ended up airing on National Geographic. I would try to help find talent, try to come up with ideas, that kind of thing. Ultimately, I ended up producing the first digital series that National Geographic ever did in the natural history space. It's a series called Wildlife with Bertie Gregory. I made the first season of that. You can find it on YouTube if you really want to check out some of the stuff that I've done. It's not that hard to find some of the other series that I've produced over the years, but that's something in particular that I was very proud of. And I think it just finished up its third season. Now, I'm not associated with it anymore, but I'm happy that it's still kicking.
That's awesome. So you
where I'm based out of, and I'm based out of Vancouver, which, do you like Vancouver? I can't remember what you said there.
I told you Vancouver is my favorite city. It's legitimately my favorite place that I've ever visited. I really love the city. And Vancouver Island is really, really cool. The series that I produced there was actually set on Vancouver Island. It's a natural history series about the wildlife there. Have you spent time on Vancouver Island?
Yeah.
Spent time on Vancouver Island.
So have you seen bears catching salmon and that kind of thing?
Not in person. No, I haven't seen that. No.
That's something you should get on. That combines both the fact that you live in Vancouver with your love of fish. You can watch them get murdered by a bear.
Well, I have seen killer whales, so that's pretty cool.
That's the same.
It's the same. Yeah. Kendo's got a question here. What camera and lens does he use when he shoots National Geo?
Yeah. So the gear that I use to shoot Tank Tested, I don't think even is approved to be like B-roll or secondary camera at Nat Geo. The gear that we use for Nat Geo is way pricier, like $100,000 pricey. I generally am not the person that's actually holding the camera. Tank Tested is the main thing that I shoot for. I will do second camera, which means that I'll like be the supporting camera that covers stuff. But I'm mainly a producer, which means that I'm kind of the director of the shoot and the one that's in charge of like figuring out what the story is. So it's better that I not have a camera in my hand because it's easy to get lost in framing the shot and forget about how the story is supposed to progress.
Okay, let me get to a question. Let's talk a little bit about
Tank Tested here.
Yeah.
For a second. So Tank Tested's first video was Jake Zucker, Tank at the Aquatic Experience in 2017. It was published November 16th, 2017, and has nearly 25,000 views. In less than 2 years, you have almost 60,000 subscribers. I think you had about close to 58,000 last time I checked.
Yeah, something like that.
What were your expectations with Tank Tested just before you decided to take on this crazy world of YouTube?
Yeah. How to answer that without sounding horribly conceited? So I obviously have a background in television. I have a background in digital. I didn't feel like it was going to be that challenging to get into this space. And on top of that, I have been involved and active in this hobby for a while. So there were a lot of people, like for instance, Rachel O'Leary, who is an incredible person who I am good friends with and knew that like after a few months of proving that I was serious about it, she would eventually help me out and shout me out and push people my way. So I felt pretty safe about going forward with it. That said, and this is where I'm going to sound conceited, I really wanted to be at 100,000 subscribers by now, and I'm not anywhere near that. But my goal was by the end of this year to be at 100,000. I'm not going to make that. I think I'll probably get to like 75 by the end of the year.
You might get there by
The middle of the summer, maybe beginning of the summer next
Yeah.
year. You might be there.
Yeah. I just want that
Uh,
little plaque. That's what I want.
that's a great plaque. The play button for sure.
Yeah.
You're an accomplished aquascaper, competed at the aquatic experience. Are your skills all natural, research, or do you do a combo of both?
It really makes it sound like I'm like pumping steroids. Um, that's a good question. I guess I research is passive. I get the chance to visit a lot of really talented aquascapers and absorb what they're doing. And I'm friends with a lot of aquascapers, and I get to just passively absorb their experiences. So I'm not doing active research, but I'm certainly benefiting from their lived experiences.
yeah. I've got a question from the chat here from Terry Lindsay. Speaking of low light, what measurement of light intensity do you subscribe to?
Gosh, I mean, my club has a par meter. I've never turned it on. I don't know. I guess it's kind of a trial and error thing. I think it's kind of like cooking. You feel it out, and eventually you get to the point where either you learned by messing up so many times that you kind of know how to do it,
Yeah.
or you learned by being trained and then you can go off book. I would say for most aquarists, it's kind of you learn by messing up so many times that eventually you know when to catch the warning signs. And that's kind of where I would like to think I'm at, is I can usually catch the warning signs pretty early and adjust what I'm doing. That said, this tank it's not in frame, right? Because we're doing a split screen. But this tank has been a bane of my existence. And now it's kind of an immersed growth tank because my light was just too close. And like if I lowered my cycle down to like 4 hours a day, it was still too much light for the tank because the tank's only 9 inches deep. So now I've just accepted that rather than it being a lovely aquascape, it's just an immersed growth of everything bursting over the surface. That's my compromise.
Sorry about the mic. I think my mic is kind of going in and out, but I will do my best here. I got another question from FishTube, and FishTube's wondering how many tanks have you got going right now, Alex?
Yeah. So I've 1, 2, 5. I have 6 right now. The most that I ever had was 14. I think like 2 or 3 years ago. Before I started Tank Tested, I had 14 tanks. And then Tank Tested kind of consumed the time that I was using on the aquarium hobby for the YouTube hobby. So I've been paring down. I think in, let's say, a month and a half, I am going to get rid of everything but 2 tanks. So I'll have 1 tank that you guys will see on my channel soon, and then another tank that'll be a competition tank that I can use to enter into contests that you probably won't see very often, because then I can't enter those scapes into contests.
His name is Alex. His channel is Tank Tested. That's who we're talking with right now. Dwarf hairgrass, Monte Carlo. I also have trouble pronouncing the scientific names, which you've said a few times in your videos.
Yeah.
I just go with the generic names too. Have frequently been used in your scapes. What's your favorite plant to scape with, and what's your favorite plant in general? I think we already got that part.
Yeah, we talked about one of my favorite
just
plants, but
just scaping in general. Which one do you like to use?
yeah, I am a really big fan of hair grasses, as we talked about earlier, of what my favorite plant is. I really love hair grasses of all types because they can be easily blown around by the current. They add a little bit of movement. Plus, I think this is a universal experience of anyone that wanted to first do a planted tank. You kind of want to have that lovely foreground. You want to have that carpet, that lawn, and I've never quite gotten over that. That said, if you were to get out of the hairgrass world, I think my favorite plant outside of that is like needle leaf Java fern. Again, not a super complex plant, but a really lovely plant for scaping with.
You're known for filming beautiful aquascapes, some of the best in the U.S.
Yeah.
Some well known, some of these people are well known, some of them are not so well known. How do you find some of these people that are maybe not so well known?
Yeah. So I I spend some time perusing Instagram and seeing what people are posting. So oftentimes I'll find a page that is not unknown, but maybe on Instagram it has a few thousand followers. And if they are within driving distance, I'll reach out to them and see whether or not they're interested in working with me. One example of that is an Instagram handle called Aquaworks, or Aquawork, I want to say, WERK. Lovely guy. He's down in Richmond, Virginia, and his work is beautiful, and he deserves so much more cred in this world. And I've got, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 videos that I shot with him back in January that I just haven't gotten around to editing yet, but they will eventually emerge. One is up right now. It's a video about a pond-style aquarium that he keeps in his window. And then a lot of the other people that I film with that are not as well known are members of my local club, GWAPA, the Greater Washington Aquatic Plant Association.
I got a question from the chat here. What is the trick? It's from Aquariums Maintained by Andy, and it is, what is the trick with baby tears? Okay.
So the trick with baby tears is use Monte Carlo instead of baby tears. Baby tears, great plant. Monte Carlo is just a little bit bigger, and it's way, way easier to grow. But if you really are stuck on baby tears, if you're stuck on HC Cuba, what I would suggest is growing with the dry start method. So allow the plant to build up a root system in your substrate, and then flood the tank. When you flood the tank, it's going to take some time to adjust, and that's when you really want to pump the CO2 and make sure that it is still getting all the nutrients it needs and all of the carbon dioxide that it needs. But that's my suggestion. Is I've never successfully grown baby dwarf tears without doing the dry start method first.
I've got another question here, which you've just mentioned substrate. What substrate do you recommend for people?
So this is, again, me coming from the perspective of I kind of want something that isn't the top of the line, although don't say that too loud. I really like fluval stratum. I think it's a really great substrate. It's relatively inexpensive. It's quite light by weight, which is really
use the sand or the
no the
thicker one, right?
Yeah, the name is escaping me of what the little compressed balls of dirt are. But the fluval stratum, so here's my pitch for it. Aquasoil is sold by the pound generally, and fluval stratum is so much lighter than most of the other substrates that a pound of fluval stratum takes up more volume than a pound of many of the other substrates, which means that it goes a lot further. It's a lot cheaper by volume, even if it's not cheaper by weight. The other added bonus of fluval stratum is that it doesn't have quite the same nutrient level. For me, this is my bonus. It does not have quite the same nutrient level as some of the other substrates like ADA substrates. That means that you have more control over your plants. You get less nitrogen spikes. You get less algae blooms. It does mean your plants don't grow as quickly. It means that if you want them to grow well, you've got to nutrient dose the water column or the substrate. But for my purposes of keeping it simple and keeping it slow, that's my favorite substrate.
You mentioned it earlier on in the
stream, Rachel O'Leary. So yeah. Rachel O'Leary is one of my favorites for sure. I'm sure she's a lot of people in here's favorite. How did you meet her? What's her fish room like?
Yeah. So Rachel was on YouTube. I think she's been on YouTube about 3.5 years or so. And I stumbled across her on YouTube when she had like 2,000, maybe less, maybe 1,500 subscribers. It was very, very early on. And I reached out to her because I wanted to buy some fish for the Big Fish Deal, which is a local event. I wanted to do the aquascaping contest there, and I wanted some fish for the aquascaping contest. So I reached out to her, requested some fish, bought the fish from her. enjoyed her company, and then maybe 6 months later was in the area that she lives up in Pennsylvania, and was able to stop by and hang out with her for like 6 or 7 hours. And from then, whenever I can, I stop by and hang out with her. Now her fish room, gosh, it's both bigger and smaller than you think. There's a lot of stuff in there. It's in a pretty small space, but there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, it's in her basement, essentially. It's not essentially, it's a basement. There are no windows down there. And it's a lovely space. And getting to see like the 150-gallon tank that she just broke down, sadly, and relocated. It's one of my favorite tanks to visit, or was one of my favorite tanks to visit, because everything is like the current in there is crazy. Everything's moving so fast. The fish look so happy, and are almost look like they're playing all the time.
The new setup of that tank looks pretty cool too.
Yeah, I hope that once it's fully established, I'll get to go up there and film that one as well.
Alien World Aquatics, first time in the stream, welcome. He's got a question, why do people hate duckweed so much? Is it really that hard to scoop out of the tank? And doesn't it help with the tank overall?
Yeah, I think I don't mind duckweed, although there are better floating plants. Like this, which is, the name is escaping me. That's unfortunate, but you know, there are other floating plants out there that I think are easier to manage than duckweed. So if the goal is to absorb stray nutrients in the water column, I would go with one of the other floating plants, because it's very pretty. There are prettier versions of floating plants, but B, they're easier to remove. The problem with duckweed is that it buds and separates every like 12 hours or something crazy like that. So if you don't remove all of it, within a week, it's covering the top of your tank again. There's nothing wrong with it. It just requires more maintenance. And it does seriously cut down on the amount of light that gets to your substrate.
Quick fix on scooping it out too. If you don't want to scoop it out and you can put goldfish in there, goldfish will eat it up, no problem. But
yeah, the same is true of rainbow fish. Not all rainbow fish, but certainly if I don't feed my rainbow fish for a few days, if I dump duckweed in there, they will eat it all up. So rainbow fish are a great solution too.
Rainbow fish are one of my favorite fish, actually. I absolutely love rainbow fish. What is your favorite? I mean, you travel around a lot. You've been to several Aquascellas, aquatic experience. I saw you at AGA, but didn't have a chance to approach you. You was kind of from afar. You were filming, and I didn't get a chance to introduce myself. What's your favorite event that you've ever been to?
They're very different. Personally, I really liked the Aquatic Gardeners Association. You know, it's a really intimate event. It's like 200 people. Everyone is very focused on loving plants, which is something that I really like. So that's a very special event, but it's very not selective. Anyone can go, but there are a limited number of seats. So in terms of a more accessible event, Aquascella is really special. I really enjoy Aquascella a lot. Not to knock on like Reefapalooza or Aquatic Experience or anything like that, but Aquascella for me allows me to get to hang out with some of my friends in the aquarium world. Friends should not be in quotes. Fellow YouTube people that I am friends with, but don't get to see in person that often. It's a chance to hang out with them. That means a lot to me.
Who haven't you met that you would love to meet?
Yeah, I think for me, I would love to meet Eurus. Do you know Eurus? He's an aquascaper in Europe. He does a lot of work with green aqua. I think I want to say he's German. I could be wrong. He's probably German. I don't know. He's great. He's a younger scaper. He's probably around my age, maybe a few years older. His work is really, really great. He's someone that I had not gotten to meet. And then James Findley, who was the creator of the Green Machine, which I mentioned earlier, which was the real original aquarium YouTube channel that was cinematic. Like, it is basically what I do, but frankly, like, he makes his own scapes. He goes from start to finish. In a lot of ways, what he does is better than what I do. He's incredible. I would love to meet him. I know that he's not really active in the hobby anymore, but he meant a lot to me, and I would love to get to see him in person.
There's another question in the chat a little bit earlier. I missed who asked it, but why the name Tank Tested?
Aspirations of a different channel than what I made. So I actually shot about a dozen videos for Tank Tested before I uploaded anything that were much more science driven. I wanted to use my love of the aquarium hobby to delve into more specific science stuff. So I shot a whole video where I built an aquarium from one giant sheet of glass by breaking it down into its components. That was really an excuse for me to talk about the physics of how glass breaks. I eventually realized, like, what is this niche? Like, who's going to be both interested in physics and aquariums? Like, that's the smallest Venn diagram in the world. So I've never published any of those videos. I've never even edited any of those videos. But originally, I wanted to do a much more science-driven YouTube channel. And then the fact that I really enjoyed the artistry of filming tanks kind of took over, and that ended up being what the channel became.
I can relate to that, considering
it's a Thursday and you're on Friday Fish Facts.
It's true. I wondered about that.
Well, I kind of started, just little 30-second tips on Fridays and just kind of evolved from there.
Yeah, I've learned never name yourself something so specific that you can't get out of it.
Maybe I'll change it one day.
Yeah.
Scottish Aquatics, who I believe is in Washington State. Some of his videos have been on Aquarium Co-op and such. Would love for you to explore some of his aquascapes. He tries real hard to be on your level. Maybe next time you're out over on the left coast.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Scottish Aquatics work. I will have to check it out after the stream. I apologize sincerely, unless I am familiar and I just don't recognize that name.
maybe you've seen it on Steampots Aquatics. He's been on there too.
But I will have to check it out because it sounds like I love getting to see new YouTube or new aquascapers out there. Not new, but new to me, aquascapers out there, and checking out their work. And I'll probably be out in Seattle eventually. There's a lot of people out in the Vancouver, Seattle area that I want to film with. Yeah.
Can you talk about your winning tank from the Big Fish deal in 2008? How was the top of your tank unique?
Yeah, so in that video, basically I got a terrarium or a paludarium style aquarium that basically it has a slanted side panel so that the front is lower than the back panel. And I decided, well, why not just glue a pane of glass onto that slanted section of glass so that you can fill the tank up to a false rim and be able to peer through basically a looking pane that's at a slight angle. So I think the angled glass was at like a 10-degree angle, so you could look directly down into the tank. I was really, really proud of what came of that. I thought it was a beautiful tank, and the space to scape was still totally doable. I have since seen some commercial manufacturers duplicate that style, which I'm sure that because of development times, they already had it in development long before I came up with that. But when I saw it, I was like, really? My very unique tank? Unfortunately, the glass has started to leak, so I tossed that tank a few months ago. Although it wasn't the part that I glued on, it was the bottom seam. I bought the tank used, and I guess something started to fail. And it wasn't a catastrophic failure, it was like a drip, drip, drip. And I could not figure out how to fix it because it had a plastic rim on the bottom. So I eventually just tossed the tank.
What's the story with the traffic light that's sitting right beside that tank?
So that traffic light is also gone now. I sold that traffic light. I bought that traffic light from a thrift shop on a whim. I was like, this will be a cool thing to have in my apartment. My apartment is not that big. It's like 700 square feet, which is not a small apartment, but it's not big enough for a full-size traffic light. So eventually I had to part ways with it because I was just like, this is taking up like 3 square feet of my apartment, which is what, a half a percentage of my apartment, half of 1%. And it's not paying that level of rent. I'm not getting that amount of enjoyment out of it, so I got rid of it. Literally about 3 weeks ago, I sold it on Craigslist.
Oh. So you did mention the one club that you're in. Are you just in the one club, or are you in a few? Or
I am just in the one club. There are quite a few fish clubs in the Northern Virginia area and the Washington, D.C. area. But for me, I really love plants. Fish are great, but I think to be really into fish, you need to have more tanks than I'm willing to have. Yeah. So I have tried to not remove myself from the fish hobby, but focus more on plants. So I am a board member of GWAPA, which is the Greater Washington Aquatic Plant Association. If you're in the DC area, come to one of our meetings. It's great. Sure. We have monthly meetings. We have plant auctions. It's great. We pass back and forth all kinds of various types of algae. It's wonderful. It's awful, honestly. But if you want a really cool set of rare plants that are not commercially available for real cheap, GWAPA is the way to go.
Cool. Let's kind of steer off plants for one question here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about fish for a second. What is your favorite fish? I mean, you mentioned rainbows. I mean, rainbows are really up there for me too. So
yeah, I used to say that rainbows were my favorite. Rainbows are still pretty amazing, but they're bigger than I think I really want to keep for the most part. And I really like the bigger rainbows. The little dwarf rainbows are nice, but they don't have quite the charisma. Yeah. I would say of like the really nano fish, which is what I'm more drawn to, I really, really love Dario, which I'm sure has a common name. I don't know it. It's a little teeny red fish, red striped fish. It's about a ½ inch long. And they just have really lovely personalities. They hunt for snails, and you can see them, their eyes thinking about what's going on as they approach something. And I really enjoy watching that. They're little territorial little creatures. So they're one of my top ones. I also really like Emerald Eye Raspora, which are a pretty boring, plain silver fish, but they have a little glow to them in their eye. And I find them really great for aquascape photography because they are pretty tight schoolers. So you'll end up with a situation where you can take a photo and you've got, 24 fish swimming in one direction all together. They're not shiny or they're not glamorous, but they kind of get the job done of bringing your tank alive.
Cool. You've used the Harlequin Rasporas and stuff in your
I have
competitive scapes too. Those look pretty cool.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're a nice orange against the green of the plants is a pretty nice,
it looks good.
Nice color combo too.
So, I mean, a lot of people obviously like your videos for your cinematography, your editing skills. But to be honest, what drew me to your channel and watching your videos was the voiceover work that you do.
Yeah.
I love listening to your voice in your videos. Has anyone ever said that to you before?
All the time. People, every morning I wake up to a collection of messages, comments on my YouTube videos that are about, I would say 2/3 positive of like really supportive of how much they love my voice and how soothing it is. And then it's about 1/3 of people telling me that my voice is terrible and to stop whispering and why am I like this, and just very mean, hurtful comments, which obviously I've not taken to heart. It's fine, but that's certainly an experience that I've had of, it's very divisive. The reason why I went down that path of kind of having a more soothing, calm, trying to like really chill out and be quiet vibe was I looked around the YouTube community of the aquarium hobby, and everyone was pretty loud. Everyone was pretty at like an 11.
Sure, yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But that's not my personality in general. And it opened up this space of there's a world for a really calming YouTube channel in this space that's still educational, especially since the Green Machine, which also kind of has that vibe, they stopped making videos a few years ago before I created Tank Tested. So they had kind of abandoned their niche in the marketplace. And I would like to think that I'm kind of the natural, not quite as good successor to that.
No, you're very.
I really enjoy it. I do.
Thank you.
So you travel a lot for pleasure mostly, and kind of your channel. What's next for Tank Tested?
Are you asking what's actually next or what I would like to be next?
Both.
Okay. What's next? So I've now shot close to, there's at least 25 videos that I've shot that I have not yet edited. The editing process takes a lot of time, and I have a full-time job. So I've built up a really big repertoire of videos from various conventions, from various people's houses, and from shops. Those are going to come out over time, but I would really love in the future to do a couple of things. I want to go to, I really want to go to Green Aqua in Budapest. That's kind of my top thing. I feel like I may have lost you. You're kind of frozen.
Am I back?
You're kind of back.
Okay. There I am. There, now I think I'm good.
Could you hear what I said, or was it?
I did, yeah, I could hear you.
Yeah.
Fine.
So I'd really love to go to Green Aqua in Budapest. That's like top of the list of places that I want to go. I really want to go and film the Amano setup in Portugal. I know these are like ludicrously adventurous, like not nearby. Want to go film that. There's no way that I would make a profit off of shooting a video like that.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't even break even, but something that I really want to see before they break down that tank. It's the largest aquascape in the world. It's by Amano. Eventually it's going to cease to be, and Amano passed away a few years ago. I'd like to see something that he did. And then the other thing that I'd love to do is see the ADA gallery in Japan. And that's kind of on my list of things to do in the next 2 or 3 years. Got to figure out how to make it financially work. But those are the 3 things. Really, really big swings of things that I want to film next.
Well, that's really cool. That's good ambitions, but I know you're going to get there. And it's going to be awesome.
I mean, I absolutely will get there. It doesn't mean that it will be a good financial decision, but I will get there eventually.
Yeah. I just reading Fish Tropic, you guys have the same haircut. We do kind of. Yours is just a little longer.
Yeah.
Speaking of editing and all that, soothing voice, one of your very soothing videos that you have is a bunch of neon Tetris schooling in a 600 gallon. Is that what that was?
It's 180 gallon and 600.
With 600 neons, yeah. 1.1 million views. I've heard you say before that you spend a ton of time on your editing your videos, not so much on this one, but that's your #1 video. And how do you feel about that?
I don't feel great about it. So yeah, that video, I shot that at Aquashella Dallas this past spring, and there were a lot of other YouTube people there, and obviously I spent a lot of time filming the tanks that I chose to film, but I knew that if I sat on it too long, everyone else would publish their videos on that tank, and there'd be no point in me releasing something. So in a kind of a panic, I edited something together on the way home on my layover from my flight back from Dallas. And I was like, I'm not going to do any voiceover. I'm not going to do anything. Just need to get this out the door. And uploaded it. It blew up. It's the #1 video I've ever gotten. And it's something that I edited in an afternoon versus normally like 40 to 60 hours for each of my videos, because I spend way too much time like finessing everything.
Good. That's you don't spend too much
finessing everything. Your videos are awesome for a reason. It's because you take time on it. Well, I mean, I've had a great time. I apologize for the sound troubles that we had today, because I knew we did have some sound problems at the beginning, and maybe it kind of was a little bit throughout the interview. But Alex, thank you so much for joining me today. It was my pleasure for sure. And
thank you for having me. it's always fun to hang out with someone that shares, our hobby. And, I don't have that many friends outside of the aquarium club that love fish. So the
Me
opportunity to
neither.
get to hang out, even
Yeah.
if it's over the internet, awesome opportunity.
It was awesome. Anyway, thanks again, Alex. And when's your next video coming out?
I just published something today.
Yeah, I saw that one. It's on my community tab.
I will publish something before I get to Aquascaping in a week and a half. That's my goal.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'd just like to thank Alex one more time, and for everyone else to join me next week for another edition Friday Fish Facts.